Welcome to this week's Foundation Friday. I am joined today by Steve Grosso from Auxiliary Capital Partners and Lisa Raffner from the Monitor. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us, Jesse.
No, absolutely. And I'd like to thank this week's sponsor, Honor Capital, for being one of our Diamond sponsors of Equipment Finance Cares. So we're here today to talk magic. Steve, I know you and your wife started this charity a few years back. Mind just kind of giving us an overview of magic and your mission?
Yeah, sure. It's a very meaningful story to me. My oldest daughter is adopted, and 21 years ago, when she was born, after being in the operating room and being completely overwhelmed by the enormity of the situation, I was back in the hotel room, literally in a shower, and had this epiphany that the entire experience was magic, and that name just resonated with me. Took me 17 years to finally get around to action, so one could call me a procrastinator, but after some business experiences and some successes that I was truly grateful for, I thought it was the right time for me to formalize my commitment to something I believe in very strongly. And Sharon, my wife, and I started MAGIC with the acronym Making a Great Investment in Children. And the stimulus for that being that adopted daughter. We now have 3 additional children, and we've got a truly modern family. And while we have adoption and diversity and all kinds of what I would call real life issues, and good and bad, the fact of the matter is that we truly fundamentally believe that we're no different than a lot of other families, and if we can help, that's why MAGIC exists.
Thank you for that, Steve, and the background there. So Lisa, how did you become involved with MAGIC?
So when Steve mentioned his 4 kids, his second child he adopted from Russia. So Steve and I have known each other for decades, both being in the industry. And during one of our meetings, we just started sharing about our lives and our kids. And when I learned he has his son from Russia, my son is adopted from Russia as well. So I adopted my son when he was 4 years old from an orphanage in Moscow. And I visited Russia 3 times. And like Steve, I mean, it was the most amazing experience of my life to be standing in a hallway and have this little 4-year-old boy run down the hallway and say, "Are you my mom? Are you my mom?" And never forget it. And he just turned 17 last month. So like Steve, it's been the most important thing in my life. And then connecting with Steve about our boys and our kids. And then Steve, most recently, about almost 2 years ago, shared with me about MAGIC. And I can even see Steve has moved right now. And Steve is so passionate about MAGIC and what he and Sharon created for children. And he said, "Would you be interested? We have a committee for adopted and foster care children." And I was like, absolutely, stop everything. Let's make this happen. Let's figure it out. And we did. So I now chair the Adoption and Foster Care Committee, and I'm on the board of directors, and it's been almost 2 years. And what an incredible, fulfilling experience, the work we do and what we're able to do to provide for children and their families.
And thank you for that. And thank you again for inviting me last night to that happy hour that you guys had. I was able to learn so much more regarding the advocacy programs and everything that MAGIC has. So I would recommend that the people watching this go to the website and learn more about that side there. Steve, so when people make a donation today, where do the donated dollars go to?
Jesse, MAGIC has 4 strategic priorities. As Lisa pointed out, adoption and foster care are at the root of our DNA, given personal experiences that Lisa, myself, and many of our other board members and volunteers have direct exposure to that. We have three other education and literacy, which just happens to be a committee that I chair. It's important to me, along a list of and lineage of educators in my family. And the Magic Scholarship Fund is the anchored investment, which supports both academic and non-academic support for children. And we look candidly with special consideration to adoptive and foster situations, foster care situations. We also have a health initiative, which health and well-being. Sharon, my wife, actually chairs that committee, and the brand there is probably our most well-known brand, which is Magic Meals. These are healthy alternatives and specifically nutritious meals that have a bent towards fresh food and nourishment. And Sharon literally has built that Magic Meals program in partnerships that we have. And again, it goes towards feeding children specifically where there's gaps. So the acronym shifts, meeting a gap in children's meals. Many children are fed in school programs, call it breakfast, lunch, but weekends in certain places of our country are not accommodated. Spring break and holiday breaks are not accommodated. Summer breaks, while we've done a good job in this country about feeding children over the holidays, in local geographies, there's real gaps in this. So that's a big area. And then our last initiative is advocacy. Rick Atherholt, who some of the folks in the ELFA would know, was general counsel for me at Tokai and DLL and over the last 17 years in our entrepreneurial pursuits, recently retired. But Rick chairs our advocacy. So think local government, state government, and federal government, keeping an eye on public policy and how we can advocate for and promote laws and real public support of children. So those four initiatives is where the money goes. And candidly, we have a goal to continue to build our endowment, the general fund, to make sure that Magic is a sustained and can continue to provide access for many, many years into the future. Certainly donors, Jesse, have the ability to be able to designate where those funds go should they have a passion.
Thank you for that, Steve. And then Lisa, kind of my last question I have here. What can people in the equipment finance industry do to help support this organization?
Steve spoke to it a little bit in talking about our initiatives and the areas of Magic where we've got our efforts and our emphasis located. And if you think about what people can do to make a difference and impact what we're doing at Magic, we call it, Steve calls it, and I subscribe to this, the three W's. So we call them work, wisdom, wealth. So anywhere and anyhow, anyone from the industry can contribute. Those three things would make an enormous difference to Magic and ultimately the children, the kids. So, if you want to jump in and join us and, roll your sleeves up and do some of the work that we do, volunteering with us, we're a 100% volunteer-based organization. We would love that. We've got, opportunities all over the country to do that. If you've got wisdom and information you want to contribute to what we're doing, learning a little bit today about what our goals and our emphasis is, that would be super valuable. And then, of course, wealth. We all of the programs we have, you attended an event last night, as you mentioned, and that was a fundraiser for an advocacy program we have to bring advocates into the educational settings of children, and for the most part, the children most in need. So we're funding programs that bring an advocate with parents to meetings and with school systems and with teachers. So that's an example of where anyone who wants to donate and contribute that W piece of wealth and any kind of funding would impact so many of the programs that we have. So they would be the areas that we would love. People are moved and interested to contribute.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Lisa. Steve, do you have anything to say in closing?
No, Jesse, other than we really appreciate the time that we have to spend with you and highlighting something that's near and dear to both Lisa and mine and a lot of other folks in the Magic organization's heart.
Absolutely. And for those watching this, at the end of this video, you'll see this slide behind me without my big mug in the way. So there'll be a link that you can go check out Magic's webpage. And then more importantly, there's a donation link so you can make a donation to aid them in this cause. But thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Steve, for your time. And look forward to seeing you guys here in the near future.
Thanks, Jesse. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We do. Thanks, Jesse.